Now, the Israeli military campaign against Iran has claimed more high-profile targets. In a major escalation, the Israeli Defense Forces have now confirmed the killing of Iran's top military and the police chiefs. The Iranian media reported a police chief and another officer were killed in a drone strike on Saturday about 300 kilometers west of Tehran, as Israel kept up its air campaign against the Islamic Republic for the third straight day. Now, Ghulam Reza Marhabi, the chief of the intelligence for the Iranian armed forces, reportedly was killed in Israel's opening strikes on Friday. The IDF said that Marhabi was Iran's most senior intelligence officer, a key architect of combat plans against Israel, and also a very close aide to Iran's military chief of staff, Mohammad Bagheri. And that's not all. Also amongst the dead are Iran's Revolutionary Guards Chief Hossein Salami, Mohammad Bagheri, Iran's Armed Forces Chief of Staff, and General Amir Ali Hajizadeh, the head of Iran's missile program. In total, the RDF says that it has killed about 20 top Iranian commanders and 9 nuclear scientists since the launch of its operation on Friday, a massive blow to Tehran's military leadership. All right, now joining us in the broadcast, we've got Mr. Heino Klink, who's a former Deputy Assistant Secretary of Defense for East Asia. Mr. Klink, thank you very much for joining us here on this broadcast on WION. Now, looking as to how things have escalated very dramatically in the last 24 to 36 hours, in your assessment, especially in the wake of what the Israeli military leadership is now saying, that they are continuing to strike Iran for the third straight day, where do you think this war is headed?
Thank you very much for having me today. I believe the Israelis will continue their campaign to eliminate the potential nuclear threat that the Islamic Republic can pose to not just Iran, but the entire region, and perhaps even beyond. Let's remember that just a day prior to Israel's strikes against Iran, the IAEA and its multinational board of directors, board of advisors, announced in a formal report Iranian non-compliance with some of the non-proliferation accords. And of course, Iran's reaction to that was that they would redouble their efforts in terms of nuclear enrichment. Additionally, the U.S.-Iranian negotiations had come to an impasse, had stalled. So it appeared as if diplomacy and international organizations' influence on Iran had waned even further. And I think that was what caused Israel to determine that they needed to take preemptive action now, prior to Iran being able to cross that nuclear threshold.
Right.
I think we're going to continue to see actions to negate that ability of Iran to do so.
You know, it's interesting that you say that Israel seems to have acted before Iran crossed the nuclear threshold. But the fact is, the United States of America, as we speak, over the course of the last several weeks, had been holding negotiations with the Iranians precisely to prevent that. So are we saying that the Israelis did not believe that the negotiations were likely to result in a situation where the Iranians would not have had a nuclear weapon?
Well, I don't know what the Israeli government was thinking. I just know what happened. And what actually, more importantly, what did not happen. Mm-hmm. And what did not happen was that the United States and Iran did not conclude an agreement that would have precluded Iran from nuclear capability. The Trump administration has been crystal clear about the United States position that Iran would not be allowed to have a nuclear weapon. Period. Right. Full stop. Negotiations were not leading to that conclusion. President Trump,
but that is not what the Trump administration is saying. Mr. Klink, if I can just interrupt you there, that is not what the Trump administration was saying till the Israelis carried out this Operation Rising Lion, because till the very last moment, Donald Trump had been insisting that negotiations are going well and he hopes that there would be a deal. But why do you think the Israeli position was different from the American position on the question of holding negotiations with Iran?
So again, sovereign countries make sovereign decisions. The negotiations between the United States and Iran had come to an impasse, it appeared. And the president had warned Iran very, very publicly that there was an opportunity for Iran to come to a deal with the United States. And if it did not, in very short order, there was a risk. He said that very publicly. He said, I think it was on Thursday, that he foresaw that something was going to happen. I think what was even more pressing was the fact that the U.S. started to evacuate non-essential personnel from its diplomatic and military facilities in the Gulf states. That was an indicator that it appeared as if there were indications that conflict was on the horizon. So again, it was an Israeli decision to strike when it did. And the United States, I think, is still holding out some hope for negotiations. Again, there were supposed to be talks scheduled for tomorrow in Oman. Special Envoy Witkoff was going to be representing the United States there. I'm not confident that the Iranians are going to be showing up to hold talks tomorrow. So I don't think the conflict is over yet. And I do anticipate that as the sun sets in the Middle East as we speak, I think we'll see additional Israeli strikes.
It's interesting that you're saying that you expect the Iranians will show up again for these nuclear talks, given the fact that Iran's key nuclear negotiator with the Americans was killed in one of the decapitation strikes that the Iranians carried out, that the Israelis carried out.
Let me be clear. I do not think.
Right, you do not think. All right.
Not think they're going to show up for a host of reasons, including the one that you just cited, but also I think for their domestic audience, I don't think they can be perceived as, while strikes are ongoing, that they're going to negotiate with the United States.
Mr. Kling, do continue to stay on with us because I want you to weigh in on another very critical aspect, but let's get some information that has come in where at a time when the tensions between Iran and Israel continue to escalate, India has distanced itself from the Shanghai Cooperation Organization statement that has condemned the recent Israeli strikes on Iran, clarifying that it did not participate in the discussions that led to the remarks. Now, the Ministry of External Affairs has reiterated New Delhi's independent stance on the escalating conflict and has emphasized the need for de-escalation through diplomatic dialogue. It's further stated that India has already made its position clear on the 13th of June and had chosen not to participate in the discussions leading to the SCO's joint statement. The ministry also added that the Indian External Affairs Minister S. Jaishankar had recently spoken with his Iranian counterpart, Abbas Araghchi, conveying the deep concerns of the international community and reiterating the need to avoid further escalation and a return to diplomatic processes. Now, Israel launched a massive aerial offensive targeting Iran's military and nuclear infrastructure on Friday. The strikes killed several high-ranking Iranian scientists and military officers. In retaliation, Iran has launched close to 200 ballistic missiles at the Israeli targets. Now, the SCO statement has accused Israel of targeting civilian infrastructure and causing multiple casualties, including children, calling the attacks a gross violation of international law and the United Nations Charter. Now, the SCO is a China-led regional bloc comprising of nations that include China, Russia, Pakistan, Iran, India, and several Central Asian nations. Mr. Hanukling, we were talking about the tensions between Iran and Israel, but the question that I want you to weigh in on is there an off-ramp? What is going to be the role of the United States of America? Because the fear is that the United States of America could get sucked into another war in the Middle East, which perhaps it does not want to get into, but it can use its leverage on the Israelis to try and cool down the tensions there. What role do you think the Americans are now likely to play?
Well, I would underscore the fact that the United States does, in fact, not want to be involved in another armed conflict in the Middle East. We've seen a generation of Americans having been sucked into conflict in that part of the world, and we don't want that to continue. That being said, the underlying foundational issue for this conflict and for bringing this conflict to an end is Iran must give up any capability regarding the potential to acquire a nuclear weapon. And that is the one sticking point that the President of the United States has constantly honed in on. And as a matter of fact, President Trump has mentioned on a number of occasions very publicly how he wants to have a normal relationship between the United States and Iran, particularly in commercial terms, people-to-people terms, and things like that. But a nuclear capability is off the table.
Right.
So Iran has to agree to that. Otherwise, states such as Israel will take military steps to ensure that.
All right, we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Heino Klink, for joining us with that perspective there.
Thank you.